Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Join the conversation on our social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome back for another edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And also joining us, it is your coach. It is my coach. It is the coach, Coach Duffy.
What's going on, everybody? How was everybody's football weekend?
Oh, great.
Oh, mine was fantastic. How was yours?
I mean, they are who I thought they were. I told you were going to lose, and I was spot on.
Yeah, we'll definitely be recapping the NFL and so much more in the world of sports, but definitely join in the conversation on social media. You can find all our links at OchoDuroParlayHour.com. Join in on Facebook, join in on Twitter, join in on Instagram, and remember, use the hashtag ODPH. Let us kick off, no pun intended, recapping week 1 of the NFL. And we have to break down our locks and leaps games that we picked specifically for the podcast. So, Pad, you are a reigning defending champion. Why don't you kick us off?
So I was going to start with my lock. I chose the Baltimore Ravens to defeat the Cleveland Browns, who were a 8-point favorite, and holy crap did they cover and then some, winning by the final score of 38-6. Lamar Jackson passing 20 of 25 for 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Baker Mayfield 21 of 39 for 189 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and then on the ground, Lamar Jackson had 7 carries for 45 yards.
Coach, your takeaway.
My takeaway is that Cleveland is stinky poo-poo.
Fair enough.
Dirty, stinky poo-poo.
It's just on your chest, almost. No, they're just a bad football team. I can't believe, I mean, they didn't even show up. This is an in-division rival that you would at least expect, like, a team to get up for.
Yeah.
And they just no-showed.
Oh, yeah.
And now we have a garbage of a game coming up on Thursday.
Yeah.
Cincinnati versus Cleveland. I mean, I feel bad for Fox because Fox is trying their best to hype it up as much as they can.
Oh, yeah.
And there's just nothing to hype up. I mean, I don't know what Cleveland's deal is. I mean, well, I know what the deal is. You went out and you got a head coach that was a, had no prior head coaching experience, got his shells knocked off in the Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator, and now you stick him as the head coach without any prior head coaching experience. Again, you should have gone out, you should have landed some sort of former head coach with some experience, a la Mike McCarthy, even though Dallas didn't have a great performance either against the Rams, but that's for another day.
Right.
I mean, Jason Garrett was out there. Again, just somebody with some sort of head coaching experience, because this team should be better. They should be better. I mean, you have 2 solid running backs. You have 2 really good wide receivers.
Yeah.
You have a really good tight end. And I still am not convinced that Baker Mayfield is a bad quarterback. He is a very serviceable quarterback that can get the job done.
Yeah.
And then defensively, you have one of the best cover corners in all of the NFL. You have the resurgence in Olivier Vernon, who, had a great year last year, especially once the suspension happened, and he was the sole, pass rusher that they really had. And you have a decent set of linebackers. So it's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And the only answer is head coach. And I mean, Baltimore on the flip side of it, my God. I mean, this might be the complete package. I mean, this is with cutting, the safety a week before the preseason. Earl Thomas, right before, week 1. So everybody thought, there's going to be, defensively, there's going to be a little bit of a lapse. Not so much.
No.
I mean, they came out and, what made me the angriest was, here I pick Evan Ingram, in our fantasy draft. And I'm thinking, all right, Ingram, they're going to run the ball heavy. No, they went with J.K. Dobbins, which is what I should have expected, considering that he had 2 touchdowns and ran the ball just like he did at Ohio State.
Yeah.
With violence.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up the Cleveland run game. For Kareem Hunt, 13 carries for 72 yards. Nick Chubb, 10 carries for 60 yards. And then there was really nothing going on in in the receiving game either. Jarvis Landry, 5 catches for 61 yards. David Njoku, 3 catches for 50 yards. Odell Beckham Jr., 3 catches for 22 yards. But the one thing that's kind of jumping out to me is the fumbles. You had 3 fumbles from Cleveland, 1 from Chubb, 1 from a gentleman named Jamie Gillian, and then 1 from Kareem Hunt. That's not good.
It's definitely not good. The one takeaway I took from this game is Cleveland, for all their offensive talent, cannot put it together. And this does fall, like, Coach, I agree with you. It falls on their head coach. What I can't figure out for the life of me is you have all this first-round talent, and yet you are producing 8th-round results. And I know there's not an 8th round in the draft, but it's that bad.
Yeah.
That Baker Mayfield is making mistakes that he shouldn't be making in his 3rd year.
No.
I know that there was one of his interceptions was just completely horrific.
Yeah.
And there's no way that he should be making these kind of hiccups. I understand that he's gone through different coaches, so I'm willing to cut some slack. But at the same time,
it's his 3rd year.
It's the 3rd year, so when does this turn around? Does it turn around?
I don't think so. I mean, the other thing I'm looking at that doesn't help is their kicking game. I mean, their kicker missed the one field goal they attempt, and then missed the 1 extra point they attempt.
Yeah,
which is going to hurt you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously some of the of this falls on Baker, and all right, an interception happens, but I think in today's NFL, given the pass friendly, pass heavy offense that a lot of teams run, I feel like turnovers are almost not necessarily part of the game plan, but expected a little bit from a coaching staff. So I mean, you almost have to, rely on your defense a little bit to get a stop. And I mean, 38 points is not getting a stop. I mean,
no.
Lamar Jackson was all over the field, dominating every way. Mark Andrews was open all day long. I wish Hollywood Brown would have gotten a few more looks, but that's my own selfishness.
Yeah.
That, I would have wished that happened. But, at the end of the day, though, I mean, they're just outclassed. And again, now they go into Thursday in almost what I would feel like is a must-win situation.
Oh, it has to be.
Against a Cincinnati team
Yeah.
that didn't necessarily look terrible going against Los Angeles.
No, I mean, there was really nothing going from Cleveland's defense. I mean, Baltimore got 23 first downs. 16 of them were from passing, 7 were from rushing, 0 from penalties. And then on 3rd down efficiency, Baltimore was 6 of 11, which is not good. If you're any defense, giving up 6th 3rd down, conversions is not good.
Well, it just falls back to the players need to make plays, and they're not doing it.
No.
So where's the disconnect? Because Cleveland, for all the talent that they had before John Dorsey left as GM, they were ready to go. This should have been the team that should be the talk of the AFC.
Right.
This should be your Kansas City Chiefs. They're not.
Yeah.
And I'm really skeptical to see what we get out of them, because for them debuting, and I understand Baltimore is a great team. I will not say that they didn't.
Sure.
They went out there and they implemented everything with Mark Ingram running the ball, and he wasn't even the major star. I mean, J.K. Dobbins had the big game.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson.
Thanks for reminding me.
Is that triple threat. And no, but even just taking a look at the rest of their stat line, they played a balanced game on both sides of the ball, and they executed better.
I'll tell you the biggest difference right now besides Patrick Mahomes for Kansas City and Cleveland. It's head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, Andy Reid is a position of not necessarily control, but a position of sturdiness and righting the ship that a captain would do or a head coach would do. Cleveland doesn't have that.
Yeah.
It's just helter-skelter. It's rocky boat, and nobody there to help guide it and bring it back to not choppy waters.
Yeah. I think one of the issues is just looking at some stats and some personnel. I don't think it's necessarily the front 7, whatever the end number ends up being, because you look at the stats. Okay, Baltimore had 107 yards rushing on 30 attempts, so that figures out to be 3.6 yards per rush. Okay, not great, not bad.
Right.
But then on the flip side, passing, Baltimore had 270 yards passing, and for yards per pass, 9.6 yards per pass.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, they have one good cover corner, and obviously the other positions are a little shaky.
Yeah.
But still, though, I mean, that's where it comes to, Lamar Jackson. You got to be able to pass rush.
Yeah.
So that is a little bit of front 7. And, I mean, the Garrett and, the front 7 were a little quiet. Miles Garrett, and they were a little quiet.
Extremely quiet.
I mean, back to the talent level. I mean, if you just put paper to paper and you look at the names and the level of star power that Cleveland has up against any roster, that's where it's like, what is going on? And I mean, that's where you have to say, all right, what's the one thing that every other team that is up in the upper echelon have that they don't, and it's sturdiness at the head coaching position. It's the rock at the head coaching position. And obviously, Baltimore is a very good team, so this is a very tough metric to gauge, Cleveland up against when you have to go with no preseason, an impromptu training camp, or abbreviated training camp, I should say, and then boom, especially with a head coach. Because, if you look at the teams and the stats and the numbers, teams that had new head coaches had a very difficult time week one because of the fact of this COVID training camp. So when you break it down and everything, and then you see the fact that they had to play against Baltimore, a team that's been together the entire year, or, the last 2 years, with a head coach that's coming back, a quarterback coming back, all these position players coming back, chances you're going to lose, and that's why they covered. And Pat, you look brilliant right now.
It all factors into where Cleveland's identity is going to be. The head coach is the face of the business side, so to speak.
Yeah.
On the playing side, it's the quarterback.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a big disconnect. They need to fix this Thursday. There is no room for error. If they lose to Cincinnati, it's a wrap.
Their schedule the rest of the way is not good. You still obviously not even looking at it right now while Pat's trying to pull it up.
I got it up. So they got, like Coach mentioned, they have Cincinnati this coming Thursday. Then they play Washington, Dallas, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Vegas, bye week in week 9, Houston, Philly, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Baltimore, the Giants, Jets, and Pittsburgh.
It's going to be a wrap if they don't win Thursday. It's over. I know it's the way early prediction.
Well,
but show me something.
So let's talk about, just the next game after Cincinnati. So let's look ahead a little bit. Washington, not a bad football team.
No.
That defense looked very, very good. Obviously Philly's offensive line is very, very bad. But they gave Wentz a hell of a run.
I'll say a week and a half ago, I would have told you, that's an easy win for Cleveland. Might be changing my tune here.
Yeah, you would have thought, all right, they're going to be 1-1, but now you're like, might be looking at 0-2, 0-3, possibly.
They're going to need to figure something out, and they have to do it in a hurry because the disconnect is completely evident. They have to hit the emergency button, hit the reset, whatever you need to do, get it right by Thursday. As for Baltimore, they look like the Super Bowl contenders we all keep talking about, and they got a big test coming up next week against Houston. And Houston did not impress me on Thursday night.
Not at all.
I'm not saying Baltimore is going to steamroll them, but that's another team that they need to do something really quick because the loss of DeAndre Hopkins is way evident. But we got to get to more of the game. So, Pat?
Yeah, looking at mine, and also this was Coach's Leap. We picked the Tennessee Titans to beat the Denver Broncos. I forget what the point spread on this one was.
It was 1.5.
Okay, thank you. And Tennessee ended up winning by the final score of 16-14. Ryan Tannehill, 29 of 43 for 249 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Drew Lock, 22 of 33 for 216 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Derrick Henry, 31 carries for 116 yards, 0 touchdowns. And then Melvin Gordon making his Denver debut, 15 carries for 78 yards and 1 touchdown. I also want to thank Derrick Henry for winning both of my fantasy football games. One for getting me enough points to beat my opponent. The other one for not getting enough points to beat me. It was a weird scenario.
That's a hell of a play out.
There might be like a weird Patriots jersey getting made for Derrick Henry this season if Pat wins the chips.
Maybe.
We'll have to kind of see about that. Anyway, Coach, your breakdown.
Yeah, obviously Tennessee came out and, still ran the ball 31 times, but, having Tannehill throw for 43 is not exactly the MO of last season.
We'll say Vrabel lied with his mask on there.
And it kind of just goes back to that argument that I had with that Tennessee fan on Twitter. Tannehill obviously had a very good performance. 29 of 43, you definitely would not have predicted going into this game that he would have thrown 43 times, and if you did, you definitely wouldn't have thought that they completed 29 of them.
Right.
Well, but in looking back, we should have seen it coming. At least not 43 and not that successful, because I think Denver would have looked at the last 2 games Tennessee played and just how much Derrick Henry ran over everybody, and their game plan was, without, again, not having seen the game because it was on late here in the East Coast, their game plan was probably, all right, let's just stack the box and try and beat us.
Well, it was a smart game plan to try. But Derrick Henry, he hung on and he just really punched them through.
Well, that's what they're going to do. They're still going to run him regardless of whether Tannehill throws 70 times a game. He's still going to have 25 plus touches a game, period, because that is their identity.
Yeah.
So if he's only getting, I mean, you got to think about it. If he's only averaging 3.7 yards per carry, which is not what he was averaging last year, which I believe was over 4. I think it was like 4.6, 4.7.
Yeah, 4.8.
You know, you talk about that. That means obviously that there might have been a 1st and 10 situation where he's only getting a yard, maybe 2 at most, and now you're looking at a 2nd and long, and instead of running it like they would have last year, they're throwing that ball now.
Last year he averaged 5.1 yards.
Oh, even better. I mean, so so if he's averaging 5.1, then you're running again on 2nd down. But if he's only getting 3.7, which is still a 2nd and long situation when you talk about 2nd and 7, they're probably not running it again. They're throwing it. So again, you know, Tannehill obviously getting more work, trusting the wide receivers a little bit more. I mean, this Denver team is not a bad team. And obviously with the loss of Von Miller the day before the game, you know, I mean, that's a tough blow to this defense that really leaned on him as their captain. So obviously their identity defensively is going to change a little bit. And when you talk about the offense, I mean, Drew Lock had a very nice game, 216 yards. You know, Jerry Jeudy picked up some yards too, so obviously they're going to be looking to him. And Noah Fant, you know, also had a good game. So Denver offensively is going to be fine. It's going to be the defense that needs to kind of bounce back here a little bit and, you know, start to take some shape. And Tennessee's going to be fine. You know, and if Tannehill is throwing 43 times, that's now teams are going to have to prepare for that more so than they did last year, which is going to cause a lot of problems defensively for some teams.
Yeah, no, Denver, you know, they should be very proud of this game because, like Coach mentioned, the loss of Von Miller was huge, and I was ready to write them off for the year. They're like, oh, they ain't going to go nowhere. But the fact that they held it against Tennessee, who was a very good team, you know, at the end of last year, and then was able to keep the score close. I mean, you know, and obviously they'll figure out who's going to lead that team defensively. Every good team does. I mean, Christ, look at the Patriots and how many times they've lost captains on the defense and somebody steps up. The one concern I just have for them is receiving because, okay, they got a pretty decent running game with Melvin Gordon there, you know, doing things. Whether he'll have any sort of resurgence, I guess you could say, we'll see. But when your leading receiver is your tight end, okay, you got some good pieces, but it almost makes you think, maybe you should look at if something doesn't improve or you might need to make some changes. Going out there getting maybe not like a huge name, but somebody who's like, all right, it's a decent receiver.
Well, you have to kind of take in perspective, too, that they're in the rebuilding mode.
True. With
Drew Lock, and I know when going in and get Jerry Jeudy in the draft, you have to give him time to go.
True.
Noah Fant, I believe, second-year player. So they have that young core, and obviously if it's a young quarterback, they're going to rely heavy on their tight end. That's just history. So for Denver to stay as close as they did, I think is a win.
Well, Noah Fant too is a hybrid tight end. You know, he's not that traditional tight end. So they're gonna he's in that category of a Kelsey, you know, or the guy out of Kittle. Yeah, he's in that type of conversation with a guy who can be a pass catching tight end. So if him leading them in receptions does not surprise me, but it's not going to last because eventually Jerry Jeudy is going to take over that role.
It also helps for Denver when Gostkowski has a terrible night.
I was going to ask you about that.
Missed 3 field goals and then missed an extra point.
Yeah, brutal.
Good Lord.
Unheard of.
First time in his career.
That was just insane to read.
And now, if I'm not mistaken, he's coming off of, what was it, a hip?
Yeah, he was out all year last year. I mean,
most of last year. He was coming off some sort of injury.
Yeah, New England brought in like 17 different kickers last year.
Yeah, before they settled on Folk, I think.
Yeah.
It was some wild stat to go with, but Gostkowski never misses. And otherwise, this game could have been a lot bigger. So I think for Denver, they have to take away that they hung in there. And for Tennessee, I think the takeaway I took
look good.
They look good.
And you're not one-dimensional.
And, yeah, they look balanced. Like Vrabel's coaching decisions about this to let Tannehill throw more, I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Like I was sitting there watching the game, and I was like, Derrick Henry's not getting the ball every time. But they balanced him out enough that you had your other receivers finally involved, like Corey Davis, who had 101 yards.
Right.
That's what you need if you're going to make a run. So Tennessee looked balanced, minus the field goals, because, hey, when they needed it, Gostkowski came through at the end.
Yep.
So you can't really fault them on that.
No.
So I guess takeaways, both a win and different perspectives for this one.
Yeah, no, and they'll definitely get some tests here coming up. They play Jacksonville next week before going on to play Minnesota and Pittsburgh.
Speaking of Jacksonville, Coach?
Segue. Yeah, so I had as my lock the Indianapolis Colts going against the Jacksonville Jaguars, claiming that it was going to be low-hanging fruit, and, well, it wasn't, and I did not reach it because Jacksonville beat Indianapolis 27-20.
Yeah. Good Lord. Phillip Rivers, 36 of 46 for 363 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Gardner Minshew, 19 of 20 for 173 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Back-breaking interception, too, for Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
The Colts should be embarrassed. Period.
Yeah.
I am friends on Twitter with a friend who's an Indianapolis Colts fan, and he was fuming.
I mean, listen, I understand that Jacksonville obviously team down on their luck, playing with house money. Everybody's against us. Everybody's writing us off. Well, they've got that whole narrative that they can, use. But still, the Colts went out, spent money on Phillip Rivers to be the starting quarterback, to bring him in to try and lead them, if not to a championship, to at least, a division championship and, a playoff berth. And here they are.
Something other than a participation banner they have hanging in their stadium.
Yeah, here they are coming out a game against Jacksonville, and you lose.
Yeah.
And you lose by your quarterback throwing a crushing interception. So, obviously, losing Marlon Mack is not going to help anything.
No.
For the foreseeable future.
No.
But, I mean, my God, defensively, you got to show up. You can't let Gunnar Minshew go 19 of 20.
No.
I mean, my God. I know he's only throwing for 173 yards, so he's not exactly slinging the rock.
And this is while getting sacked 4 times.
Yeah, I mean that's brutal. That's a bad performance. The Colts definitely should be embarrassed. I would be, if I'm a Colts fan, I would be frustrated.
I'd be pissed.
Yeah. I mean, regardless of whether you thought this team was Super Bowl caliber or not, you can't come out and put up a dud of a performance on week 1.
Yeah, you can't. This was just an abysmal performance for the Colts. With Phillip Rivers, you'd figure would play better.
Sure. That's why you brought him in.
Yeah, still throwing for 46 times and getting 363 yards. That's still a good stat, but your interceptions are going to kill you. Your running game was non-existent.
Yeah.
I mean, this almost looked like Arizona for a second. With just your top running back was Nyheim Hines, who had 28 yards
on 7 carries.
So how is that a win? Like, I understand Marlon Mack got hurt, and I get that, but to be that one-dimensional and to let a Jacksonville team, that, let's face it, can you honestly name 5 Jacksonville Jaguars right now other than Minshew?
Nope.
So you basically got beat by the team from the longest yard. Like, I don't even know who these people are, and they just completely steamrolled you.
So what you're saying is it's Brucey's time to shine.
Yes, it is.
Goddamn right.
Well, I mean, that's why, you have the narrative here of them, we're our backs against the wall. Nobody thinks we're going to do anything. And here you go. You come out and you steal one from the Colts.
Yeah, it's a big.
But that's to be expected. It's a division game. Division opponents get up against each other.
Well, that's what we thought until Cleveland didn't do it. So,
that's true.
I mean, 9 out of 10 times they do. I mean,
right.
But in this case, and I even said this on last week's show, I said Jacksonville has this weird chemistry against Indianapolis.
I didn't go near it.
I can't explain it. But every time when Jacksonville is the worst team in the football, they wind up beating the Colts. And it doesn't matter how stacked the Colts team is. They just do.
I thought Phillip Rivers was going to be able to lead them to a performance. I also thought this defense was going to be a little bit better.
Sure.
That is obviously not the case.
Well, I think it's like you said, you said head coaches, but I think the same can also be said for new quarterbacks or new position players.
Yeah.
Obviously they had some semblance of practice with, the receivers and what have you, but that's like, getting ready for a fight in UFC. It only gets you so far. It's not game situations, even if it's preseason where, let's face it, people might be quarter-assing it, not even half-assing it.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers, new offense, new receivers, new line. Can you chalk it up to maybe just, hey, situation is what it is and just didn't get a normal preseason? Maybe.
You might be able to use that excuse, but I think for being a veteran quarterback like Rivers is, and the pedigree he has, he's not a journeyman.
No.
He's had playoff experience. I mean, hell, he almost got to the Super Bowl a couple times. Almost.
Yeah.
He should be able to lead that team and do a better performance, and it all kind of relies on him.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't do this and they got defeated by like a team of no-names, and that's honestly the way you can describe Jacksonville. I mean, using whatever reference you want, but they rallied together and found a way to win and punch a division rival right in the mouth. You have to be ecstatic if you're Jacksonville. If Indianapolis, you're staring at the scoreboard going, what just happened?
Yeah.
And then going into next week, you have to make some changes. I'm not saying the season is done like Cleveland if they lose next week, but Indianapolis needs to do something and something fast.
Because they're playing Minnesota next week.
Yeah, and that's going to be a tough matchup. They're coming off a bad loss to Green Bay.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, still the baddest man in football.
This is true.
Which performance we'll get to a little bit. But
seriously,
I say I will just go right to my picks then. I mean, obviously it was kind of a crazy thing, but looking at quarterbacks, my lock stepped up, third year in the league, and was very impressive against a truly abysmal team. But, Pat, you got that stat line?
Yeah, so you took the Buffalo Bills to defeat the New York Jets, which they did by the final score of 27-17. Josh Allen, 33 of 46 for 312 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Sam Darnold, 21 of 35 for 215 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
Coach, your thoughts?
Yeah, the Jets are fucking embarrassing.
Yeah.
They're bad.
Like, I don't want to take anything away from the Bills because they put on a hell of a game, and I know the Jets, came on a little bit late and scored a touchdown, but my God,
they're bad.
That defense, holy hell.
Yeah.
It is pathetic.
They're bad.
I'm sitting here trying to watch. The early slate of games, if you are the Northeast like we were, was tough.
It was rough.
Tough because it was Washington and Philly or this game. And, I know you Buffalo fans, you were really excited to be on television, and I 100% understand.
I'm not taking this as a negative.
But as a Giants fan, and that's besides the point, but having to be forced to only select from these 2 games was brutal because Buffalo in that first half was taking it to them so hard. And I know the Philly game was the same way. Philly was absolutely taking it to Washington. I know Washington came back and flipped the script a little bit, but my God, their defense in the red zone was atrocious. Buffalo was just having their way with them the entire time. Now, Josh Allen had a couple fumbles that were not so good.
No.
But outside of that, flawless.
Yeah. Pat?
No, yeah, the Jets just look awful. I was out watching some of the early games with Ken, and what was the one stat? Like, before halftime, the Jets had 1 first down.
1 first down in the entire first
The
half.
entire first half. You just look at, they had absolutely nothing going. Frank Gore, 6 carries, 24 yards, no touchdowns. That was their leading rusher. Leading receiver, Jamison Crowder, probably the lone bright spot of the entire game for them. 7 catches, 115 yards, 1 touchdown. It was really bad for them. But I think the one telling part was during the game, I believe it was whoever was on the sideline for CBS, when they had talked to Adam Gase, and he basically said that the 2 most in shape guys on the team were Le'Veon Bell, who according to Bell he's in the best shape he's been in seasons, and then Frank Gore, who's 37 years old. It's not a good look.
It's not a good look any way you want to shape it for the Jets. I'm sorry. I'm not saying this as a Bills fan. I'm saying this as a football fan. Your team is atrocious. There is no kind of dynamic on either side of the ball. Your defense has not recovered from the loss of Jamal Adams leaving, and it showed. There was no sense of establishing your will, if you really want to use that term. It was atrocious to sit there and watch the Bills completely look like the Kansas City Chiefs running all over you.
I'll say the Bills doubled the Jets' time of possession. The Bills had 41 minutes and 16 seconds on the clock. The Jets, by contrast, had 18 minutes and 44 seconds. They also almost doubled them in plays. Bills, 81 total plays for the game. Jets, 53.
And if the Bills were more careful with the ball, they probably would have put a 40.
Oh, easily.
And their sleep. I'm taking nothing away from Josh Allen's performance, though. Throwing for over 300 yards for the first time since 2016 is a huge win for them. When he's your leading rusher, though, that does alert me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because obviously
didn't he say he's going to run less this year?
Yeah, he's supposed to run less, and yet he had more carries than Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. So that being said, I am a little concerned about that, plus how he was handling the ball when he's running. He's still making the mistakes of holding it out like a Frisbee.
Those rushes, though, were more dictated by how badly the Jets secondary was playing.
Oh, yeah, they gave it to him. No,
they threw heavy because, I would too if you were completing every single pass you threw.
Yeah.
Obviously what leads to that is, maybe a QB pressure where people are, you're flushed out of the pocket, and Josh Allen's first resource right now isn't necessarily looking downfield, but, taking it off, which isn't a bad thing when you have nobody covering the middle. If there's not spy, you should do that, So you saw the Jets do that a lot. They drop back into man. Nobody's sitting there watching the quarterback, and his first instinct to run. And the other thing that predicates off of that is QB draws.
Oh, no, I'll give you that. Just his running style still scares
Well,
me.
yeah, sure, I get that.
Reckless as all hell, and he needs to be better holding the ball. And that's why I say I understand we're getting yards and we're getting points, which I'm not mad about. But when we stop, that's when it's going to be time to say, okay, how can you adapt?
Right. And I mean, eventually you're going to run into a better defense that is going to have a spy, or they are going to try and QB contain, and they're not going to exactly let him get out of the pocket, and that's going to be the problem. Can he hang tight in the pocket with pressure coming at him and deliver the ball?
Yeah, that's going to be the question we need to answer, though. I will say I did like the connections he was having with Diggs and Brown.
That looked great.
They looked great.
I mean, Diggs early on, though, I kind of forgot he was there. I was looking for him. They weren't using him, and then all of a sudden, they started linking up.
Well, the issue was Josh was running so much that they were double-teaming him, and then once they stopped, he adapted and started throwing to him.
Yeah.
So they played a smart style football. I will admit, though, the only takeaways I would say, they need to be better with Josh running the ball. And they need to not take their foot off the gas.
Sure.
Which they did that third quarter. And when their kicker was missing field goals.
Yikes. That didn't help me.
Which is what it is.
Yeah.
You gave the Jets momentum to get back in, and it took them a couple series to get going again to play shutdown football.
Yeah, there definitely was a different feel to it coming out of the locker room.
Yeah, coming out of the locker room, I think they already thought they won, and that's a young team that the coaching staff needs to say, hey, it's not done yet.
Yeah, I mean, again, last year, let's flip a year back.
Yeah.
This was the opposite. The Jets were dominating. The Bills had to come back to make, push the game and win it ultimately. I mean, so now Bills are in a position of, they're being dubbed the AFC champions or the AFC East champions. So they're kind of in a different position. Everybody's hunting them. So they've got to be able to adjust that, in the second half, not to be complacent and to come out and have that, killer instinct and finish it instead of just letting teams back in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be something they're going to need to work on next week against Miami, but I like their chances there. And for the Jets, they have to host the 49ers. Yeah. Good luck with that one.
Especially with how they played.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the game of the week, and we're talking about players and how they came out opening week, Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were my leap. And they did not deliver. They wound up losing, I would say, the game of the week per se. You can have a debate about it against New Orleans. Pat, you got the stats up?
Yeah, so New Orleans ended up winning by the final score of 34-23. Drew Brees, 18 of 30 for 160 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Tom Brady, 23 of 36 for 239 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Coach?
Dude, here I was thinking you picked the Giants. I was getting ready to cut my promo here, so I guess I'm gonna have to sit back on
just one more
that
series
for one more. Yeah, for one more thing. I don't even know where to start with this game because I mean New Orleans did not look crisp at all.
No,
I mean defensively they looked better, as the game went on, but offensively, they're weird offensive flow to this team. I mean. The use of Alvin Kamara early was kind of off, and then later on they eventually found him. Drew Brees didn't look necessarily Drew Brees-esque early on.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, once it started to settle down a little bit, he looked better. The Michael Thomas injury is definitely going to hurt. I mean, there's no timetable on his injury as we record, right? The last I heard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's definitely going to hurt. Emmanuel Sanders was non-existent in this game, which is a problem moving forward. Defensively, I thought they played great. And if, we switch it over to the Tampa Bay side, Tom Brady, I mean, Bruce or Arians calling him out.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? You know, I mean, who the fuck are you? I understand, like, you want to, probably show and establish, like, you are the head coach and all this jazz and no player is different than the other. But, like, even Belichick wouldn't do that. No. Like, to that extent. Like, Belichick would call you out in the media, but not throw you under the bus to the point that Bruce did. And that's not smart head coaching when you're talking about a seasoned veteran who, came to this team probably with the idea of, building and having some sort of rapport and being able to establish his kind of offense and not necessarily taking over, but a la Peyton Manning when he went over to Denver. Right. Kind of sprinkling in some of the things that he's taken away from his years and success at New England and helping you carry your team to the next level. And just the chemistry is definitely not there.
No.
And Michael Evans and him obviously got on the better page later on. His arm strength is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've got one of the fastest wide receivers in all of the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to be able to throw the ball deeper than 25 yards on a post pattern.
Well, and that was one of the moments in the game where, I believe Erin Andrews was on the sidelines, and she talked. One of the conversations she had with Brady was he was talking about, if they're going to single cover or whatever coverage, and they're tempting me to throw deep, I'll throw deep, and I'm sitting there going,
Will ya?
Can you?
Yeah, will you?
Can you? You're 41 years old. Respect the hell out of you. You've got great accomplishments. You're one of, if not the greatest quarterback of all time. But is the arm strength there anymore? I mean, yeah, you can look at the stats from last year and no wide receivers and offensive line, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But if the numbers come out the same this year, maybe it wasn't the team. Maybe it's you. I mean, for all the stories you heard about him having practices and get-togethers with his quarterback, his receivers and all that, it just goes to show that don't mean shit if you're not getting actual game-time scenarios where a guy's trying to take your head off.
Well, it's not even just that. It's the fact that, you're talking practice speed versus game speed.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to the one deep pass to Chris Godwin was a post, so it's not the same distance as running that fly, that number one route. And I know that he did hit one in New England, which everybody was like, maybe the arm strength is there, but you never saw it again. So you got to be able to stretch the ball. You have to be able to stretch it. You got to go vertical.
Mm-hmm.
With these type of wide receivers, you cannot sit here and just run the intermediate 10 to 12-yard routes. You got to throw one deep.
And he doesn't have a Julian Edelman-like receiver that can just run those short routes, run those middle routes, and just get knocked the hell around.
Not even just run those short routes. It's run those short routes with the crispness that Edelman, Hogan, those guys did, because Chris Godwin can run them. Mike Evans can run them.
But they're deep guys.
But not only just that, but they're not the beauty of Edelman. And the thing that people don't realize is his efficiency at running those patterns and getting open. That is what makes him the elite wide receiver that he is in those short routes. Guys just don't develop that skill. I mean, you see burners and you see guys like that, like an Odell Beckham and all those guys. But then when you ask them to run those intermediate slot routes, they can't do it because it's not in their repertoire. No. Because there's a ability to run those routes, and part of it is scheme. Obviously, you're gonna have your rub routes, your picks, and all that garbage that help get an Edelman open. When you talk about slot corners that might be able to go speed for speed with them. Yeah. But I mean, they just don't run them the same way that Edelman does, and there's also not the chemistry that he has with Edelman. So you talk about that, and then you look at the fact that they really ran the ball heavy early on, and then got away with it as the game went on, which I think was a mistake. I think that given Brady's current situation, I think the play action in running the ball heavy is his best bet moving forward. Yeah, and I do got to give Tampa Bay a little bit of credit. Their defense kept them in this game. Yeah, because this game should have been a bigger blowout than it was. And you got to give credit to Tampa Bay's defense on that. And one thing I just want to say, all the people online going, this is the best team Brady's ever had. Yeah, motherfuckers. I remember 2007 and 2008. Moss and Brady was like a goddamn video game. I remember very specifically, and apologies to Tennessee fans, I remember the game in the snow in November in like 2010 where they put up 4 touchdowns in one half. And one on a flea flicker that I can still picture in my head vividly. Yeah, it's a good team, but Brady has had good teams in the past.
Here's my takeaways from this. 1, Bruce Arians is no Bill Belichick.
Nope. Facts.
Nope. And definitely was showing a little bit, if I may say, a Freddie Kitchen style of handling Tom Brady that I don't think is a good look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the call-out was wrong, how he was handled. I don't know if it's because this team has a lot of high expectations and it just kind of failed because
it came off like a guy who got handed the keys to a fancy brand new Lamborghini, and all he's ever driven in his life are Ford F-150s.
Yeah, this is just something he looked, in my opinion, out of water. And like I said, it looked, in my opinion, like when Kitchens would kind of address the media.
Yeah,
it looked so out of place and just did not.
I'm sorry. Like, I'm all for the, Parcells was big on that, you know, and obviously Belichick is an extension of Parcells. Tree. But I mean, to directly point the finger at, your veteran quarterback to try and to try and show that, nobody's above the team. This is my ship. I don't care that Tom Brady's here. It's still my team.
Yeah.
That just shows insecurity. Obviously, he has, Jameis Winston and quarterbacks before that weren't at the caliber of an of Tom Brady. So I mean, there might be a little bit of complex there when everybody, even Troy Aikman on the broadcast, said that this is going to be Tom Brady's offense, and he's bringing in some of the things that he brought in from New England. And I know that I had, 10 seconds ago just said the same thing, but that's what you expect when you have a veteran quarterback. You expect, a guy of Tom Brady's caliber doesn't sign to your team and then you just say, okay, here's my playbook, learn it, and this is what we're doing. No. He doesn't sign to that team. Obviously the conversation must have been, all right, Tom, these are some of the things that I like to scheme. Where do you want to kind of implement, some of the things that you've done over your years, and let's kind of meet in the middle. You know what I mean? And that obviously, with what Bruce Arena said, is not what was going on.
It just definitely wasn't, and for Tom Brady, Father Time caught up to him. I'll say it right now. The zip on his ball was lacking.
Yeah.
He started out strong but faded quick, and an interception that he was way behind throwing.
Let's talk about that real quick, because Janoris Jenkins was nobody wants him. The Giants cut him. Obviously, it was a little bit. There's a little bit of problems in the locker room or whatever, but nobody wants him. Nobody's going to trade for him, so the Giants just cut him. Yeah, well, look what he just did.
Yeah.
He's playing great. Resurgence. Giants fans, oh, he's done. He's washed up. Yeah, well, look what he's doing in New Orleans. He's picking off Tom Brady for pick 6 here. He jumped that route. Now, yes, the ball was behind and slow, but Janoris Jenkins was sitting on that route ready to take the ball.
He read that thing from start to finish.
Facts.
And for Brady to come out that ill-prepared, and it sounds so weird to say, but it's facts.
Yeah.
To be that ill-prepared for his debut against a team that he knows damn well is his benchmark in that division.
Yep.
I'm saying is going to be a very long season. I don't know how exactly they can improve. They're going to need to turn it around quick.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the season is done a la Cleveland, because I think that Tampa Bay is in better shape, but there are very big cracks to that armor that they need to find a way to fix. How Arians is handling everything,
not good.
I don't like it. And like I said, the comparison I keep throwing back to is not a good one.
I mean, he's obviously a veteran head coach that has done wonderful things, with teams in the past. I mean, obviously he took a pretty bad Arizona team and was able to turn them around, to a title contender. But at the same time, it's like, listen, let's pump the brakes a little bit here. It was game 1 with a new quarterback. You don't need to sit here and if anything in the media, we need to play better and we just need to get a little bit more from the quarterback position.
Yeah.
That's all you needed to say.
Yeah. That's all he needed to say, and he didn't. And just how this is going to affect Tom Brady is going to be interesting. Now, Brady is a premier professional. Let's face it, he's in the GOAT conversation no matter who you talk to.
Yeah, but let's face it. I mean, he obviously has not necessarily a personality complex of his own, but you can definitely tell there is a little bit of a thing that he has. I mean, him and Belichick obviously did not get along the last couple years in New England.
No.
And I don't know if this is necessarily going to be something that he takes to.
Spots change, the personality doesn't.
Exactly. So I don't know how he's going to react to this. I mean, he'll be as professional as possible. Don't get
sure
me twisted.
that will be correct. But behind the scenes,
this could turn ugly very quick. And unless they really start winning some games and establish all the hype, this does remind me of that Cleveland team that was supposed to run away.
Sure.
I just need to see some more out of Tampa Bay, but with Tom Brady, it looks like Father Time caught up, and this reminded me of when Peyton Manning's last season was in Denver.
And I'll say this, for whatever issues behind the scenes that were had in when he was in New England, how often did you hear about it?
You never
did.
Because of the command and respect Belichick had with that locker room.
Goddamn right.
And Robert Kraft and everyone in that organization. The same cannot be said for Bruce Arians and the Tampa Bay organization. So if the waters start getting a little shaky and heated conversations start getting had, you will absolutely hear about it.
Oh, it's coming out, yeah.
Oh, it'll get leaked out, and then it's going to turn ugly. So all the preseason hype is going to go up in smoke. Flipping it to the other side of the ball, New Orleans, Drew Brees looked old to me too.
Yeah.
Not as bad.
Yeah.
But he definitely looked like Father Time.
It looked rusty. if nothing else, and it looked like, just another case of it. You didn't have a proper preseason to get ready.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're seeing it in Major League Baseball where they started the spring training, stopped, had a 2-week spring training, and then all the pitchers came out and started getting shelled.
Yeah.
I mean, they played overall. The football was, I felt like, pretty solid quality.
It was solid,
Yeah,
but
there were mistakes.
You could definitely, Drew Brees looked a step behind,
Sure,
a little bit
sure.
slow. I think there was maybe a little bit of hesitation given, this Tampa Bay defense not really wanting to give the ball back to the offense. So I get it,
Yeah, so it's going to be stuff they're going to have to work on for next week. I know, Pat, you guys scheduled up.
Yeah, so Tampa Bay next week is taking on the Carolina Panthers, and then the Saints are taking on the Raiders on Monday Night Football.
So some fun games to watch. So let's close out. Maybe do a quick around the end zone here with Coach. Any final shots for the week?
I mean, do you want me to get into the Giants or do you want me to wait? You tell me what you want me to do.
Hit us with it.
All right. Well, I mean, the Giants obviously played Pittsburgh, and they lost by 10. Pat, I know that you had talked taking the Giants. I saw Dog did take the Giants. Well, Dog, you should have listened to the show because I told you not to do it. 5 points that I want to make here, one, Joe Judge, his first head coaching performance, I thought was fine.
Sure, I agree.
Jason Garrett, I thought they both called a very good game, given the fact that you're going against one of the better defenses in all of the NFL. Point two is you got to do something about that offensive line. I don't know how many times I'm going to say it. I'm
So
just
you've
going to
said
be a
that for a
broken
few
record.
years.
I'm going to continue to say it until probably the day that I die. It will probably be on my tombstone. The Giants need to have a better offensive line. Number three, Saquon Barkley. I feel terrible for you. I'm sorry that we've ruined your career. You deserve better, my man. I cherish you. In the beginning of the game, I was like, oh my God, maybe he really isn't as great as he was. And then he caught that pass, and then he did the hurdle and the spin. And I was like, oh my God, there's Saquon Barkley again. I remember what this guy can do. So he's still there. He just can't do anything. I had mentioned to some friends that I think they need to run some stretch plays. A la the Denver Broncos back in the day when they used to run the stretch runs for Terrell Davis, because there's two things that does. One, it takes pressure off of the offensive line to have to open up holes because they clearly can't. It's
very evident.
Oh, God. Yeah. Literally, they cannot block a soul. So instead of having to block an individual person, now you just push down the line. So let's say it's just stretch run right. You just block down the line, and then wherever the hole opens, and point B of this is Saquon Barkley can be athletic and cut back to the hole and boom, explode through it, and now he's open, because you could tell that when he was getting to the line, there's a lot of hesitation, there's a lot of, to try and make a cut to get into an open lane, and that's not successful running for Saquon Barkley. He needs to be able to get into an open space and hit a hole running. 4, I was kind of surprised by how well the Giants defense played. Not going to lie, I thought they were going to be terrible defensively, and they, for the most part, held the Pittsburgh offense in check.
Yeah.
Obviously, the 2-minute drive, that's difficult on a defense. A lot of defenses have a tough time stopping them, so that's to be expected. So, yeah, it's a tough break. That touchdown really killed them. And then point 5, if the Giants finish this season 2-14, and like I'm fearing that they're going to, and I will say this every week on the show until football season's over, if the Giants finish 2-14 and they do not select Trevor Lawrence, I am done with this goddamn team. You cannot tell me that Daniel Jones is the guy. I don't care. I've seen enough of it. I know that he has talent, and this might be a Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers situation where you're staring at, a very good quarterback that you're high on, and you've got a quarterback that you've drafted that you also, thought was the guy. Move him on and bring in Trevor Lawrence, because the talent level is too different. Trevor Lawrence is too good of a quarterback not to pick.
Fully agree.
Yeah.
Ban that. Boom. Oh, and one more thing. I told y'all about Chase Claypool.
Yes, you did.
Boom.
Yes, you did on Monday. Pat, any final thoughts on this week?
Yeah, just really happy with what I saw from Cam Newton. 15 of 19 for 155 yards passing on the ground, 15 carries for 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. Was the most rushing yards by a New England Patriots quarterback since about, I believe, like the 80s or 70s or something like that.
And you should be thanking the Chicago Bears.
Yes.
Yeah. So very happy with what he did. And it makes me a little more excited to see what comes with the season, because I'm not gonna lie, I was a little skeptical, a little nervous with the season. Don't know what I was gonna get, but I liked what I saw.
Keep running them. That's the answer.
Yeah.
I'm sure our Patriots look great from what I could see. Seattle looked great too this past weekend.
Sure.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
Sure.
They looked like the Super Bowl
I
pick.
can't believe I was wrong on Atlanta again, you sons of bitches. You do it to me every year. Every goddamn year I think you're back, and you're not.
No, it's a wrap. I'm sorry.
Every year, I'm like, oh, I'm going to buy the hype. Atlanta's going to go back. I think they're going to do it. You know, I'm talking to my wife, who's number one in our little league, and I know we're going to talk about it in our selection pool. And I was like, hey, I'm picking Seattle, but honey, Atlanta's back. Atlanta's back, baby. They're gonna turn this around. Nope.
Not even close.
Same fucking team year on and year out. They blow the thing up. Just, you know what? Forfeit the season. Just say, we're done. We're not going to play football the entire year. We're just going to start fresh next year. Change the name. Don't be the Atlanta Falcons anymore. Become the Atlanta football team and just start anew. You got to just tear the whole thing down. Build a new stadium. Just get rid of everything. New colors, new arena, new owner, new everything. Just nothing is the same. You can't do it anymore. The stink is too far deep. It's like the Seinfeld episode with the car, where the car is too stinky and he has to sell the car. That's what Atlanta has to do. Sell everything. Sorry, popcorn delivery guy, you're fired. The stink is on you.
At Coach Duffy11 on Twitter.
I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong in this. It runs too deep. The guys who sawed the field, you're out of here.
Yep.
It's on you, too.
I've been saying this for 2 seasons
I
now.
know, and by God, I was wrong. You know what's going to end up happening, though? They're going to get hot, and they're going to finish 8-8 and miss the playoff by a game. That's what's going to end up happening, because that's what this goddamn team does every year.
Because who is Atlanta?
What is Atlanta?
That being said, closing out, Aaron Rodgers had a great weekend.
Video game numbers.
Aaron Rodgers is angry.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And he played it too.
Angry.
Uh-huh.
Even though Minnesota did give him a run for the money, 43-34 was the final.
Yep.
Rodgers 364 and 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Yo.
An angry Aaron Rodgers is a scary Aaron Rodgers.
Say Devontae Adams, 14 catches for $156, 2 touchdowns. Good God.
And Minnesota's defense should be a little scared. Because you can't let's face it, Green Bay's offense is good, not great, and you let them run roughshod over you.
Yeah, if you're a Vikings fan, you got to be a little worried right now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's my skull.
Can you do that one more time?
That's the skull.
I think that's how we can easily describe week 1 in the NFL. So hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What was your takeaways from week 1? Did you agree with our picks? Did you not? And let's have the discussion. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do you think you should go to jail if you throw a cookie at your girlfriend?
Do you think it's cheating if an athlete fails a doping test, but the twist is only her boyfriend is juicing?
Do you think 200 shots is too many to try to stop a robbery?
What would you do if your parents burned $30,000 worth of your porn?
Have you ever asked yourself this question?
What the hell is wrong with Florida? Well, we're the Rum Runners Podcast.
We read the clickbait so you don't have to.
We click those questionable links that pop up in your feed and let you know you want a new iPhone.
Every week, we break down the weirdest and funniest of those articles.
Find us on Apple, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Anchor, and just about anywhere you find podcasts.
Video versions can be found on YouTube. Just search Rum Runners. That's RUMRUNNAS.
We're also available on Twitter at RumPod and Instagram and Facebook at RumRunners.
With new episodes dropping every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Hot lips touching, cool thighs breathing, shawty running up, her spine's been a long day to a long night, but I'm not stopping till I get it right.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this edition of the ODPH podcast. And now let's switch gears and talk a little NBA playoff action. Tonight, as we are recording, is a Game 7 that I didn't think any of us were expecting.
No.
Pat, who we got?
You have the Denver Nuggets taking on the LA Clippers. Game 7, series tied 3-3. Will Denver pull it out? Will the Clippers choke again?
This has been a mind-blowing series on every single level.
Uh-huh.
The Clippers should have been running away with this, and now they're on the brink of elimination and arguably if they lose, it will be one of the worst losses and upsets in NBA history. Coach, what is your take?
Well, I've got a couple things here. One is there was a video that was posted during the 2008-9 finals, Lakers versus the Celtics, in a Game 6, Game 7 situation, and Phil Jackson has called a timeout. The team is down, and he's telling them, hey, don't worry. It's the fourth quarter. The Celtics are going to slip. They always do. This is Doc Rivers' MO. They always come out strong, but they slip in the fourth quarter. They will find a way to blow this game. That is Phil Jackson saying this to a Lakers team, mind you, with the Mamba mentality, so you knew they were coming out ready to just wreck shit. All right? Now, let's go to the actual stat. Doc Rivers, 3-1 up in a series with Orlando with Tracy McGrady, lose the series. Up 3-1 with the Boston Celtics in that very series against the Lakers, lose. 3-1 up with Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, lose. Up 3-1 with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, time will tell.
Yeah, but there's a trend.
This is obviously going to have to be one of the most watched games of the year for many reasons.
You'd think.
Because with all the hype that came in for the Clippers, and we can't stress this enough, when Kawhi Leonard left Toronto and formed the super team with Paul George and company, the Clippers were the talk of the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, everybody. Kawhi Leonard is the best player in the NBA currently. The
Exactly.
best overall player, all
there was
that.
some rumblings that they might have supplanted the Lakers as LA's favorite team.
Exactly. So for them not to be running roughshod over a Denver Nugget team led by Nikola Jokic, who is
Jamal Murray.
And Jamal Murray.
Let's give. I mean, this is the man that has strapped them to this back.
Well, he's definitely stepped up, but Jokic has definitely taken.
He's played well this series. Yes,
that's
this is true.
With. So between those two, they're giving the Clippers fits, and for a team that is so defensively sound, as the Clippers, they're looking like the Clippers of old in this one.
Well, and that's one thing I wanted to bring up is I think we had conversations both on air and off, getting ready for this NBA season, just looking at what potentially could be their starting five going, good luck scoring a basket on these guys, because holy crap, that's good defensively.
Yeah, Pat Beverly, Paul George, Leonard, whoever they were starting at the 4, and then Zubac. Yeah, everybody thought, oh, man, this is going to be tough to score. And I mean, I guess the thing that Denver's doing and the ability that they have is Jamal Murray just can finish.
Yeah.
And he literally, I can't compare it to anything other than like Dame Lillard, just with the ability to get open, make baskets, shoot over guys. I mean, they have thrown Pat Beverly at him. They've thrown Paul George at him. Kawhi has covered him. I mean, you're talking about 3 of arguably the best defensive players in all of the NBA currently. And they have thrown them at Jamal Murray, and he's still scoring.
Rumors on Twitter say that the Clippers are going to employ the kitchen sink on Jamal Murray tonight.
And you need to do something.
Yeah, and then when you talk about the fact that Jokic played so well in Game 6, and I mean Michael Porter Jr. came up so big in Game 5, it's like they have these heroes that are coming up in these stretches of games that, all right, all the eyes are on, Jamal Murray, and he's still going to put up 30. But then all of a sudden you got one of those two coming up, sneaking up from behind you and scoring, and this is and Paul Millsap has been non-existent. So, I mean, you're literally talking about a second-year player in Porter Jr., who is technically on his rookie year. You've got Jokic, who, is not necessarily an afterthought, but has not played well prior to Game 6. A little bit in Game 5, mostly Game 6. And now they are taking over these games. It's like all the momentum right now is... And again, it comes down to all the momentum is on Denver's side. All the pressure in the world is on the Clippers side. Yeah. So Denver's playing with house money. And when a team is playing with house money, it is very, very dangerous.
I fully agree. So that being said, who are we feeling for tonight for Game 7?
Before we get to that, I want to read off some numbers. Currently, as we record, the Clippers are a 7.5-point favorite, with Denver being plus 270, LA being minus 330, and the over-under is 208.5.
Yeah, so I feel like, if history is always set to repeat itself unless you change things, and I don't necessarily know that the proof is in the pudding that Doc Rivers can change.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Denver.
I'm thinking Denver too, just like Coach said. None of the pressure is on Denver. It's all on LA. So, and like we said, they're playing with house money. I think they're going to be late. There's going to be that kind of anxiousness, that anticipation, that laser point focus. But I think they're going to be a little laid back. They're going to be a little, easygoing. They're not going to be as worried. They're not going to be pressing. It's not going to be in the back of their head the entire game. Whereas with Clippers, they should have put this away a long time ago. This shouldn't even be a thing. We shouldn't even be here talking Game 7. The only team making out well in this scenario are the Lakers.
Facts.
The Lakers were sitting there for what, 2 weeks or whatever, however long it's been?
It feels like it.
It feels like it's been only a week, but it feels like two.
Having not played, so this is only playing into the Lakers' favor, but I think it's going to end up being Denver.
I would normally say yes, but you brought up a point about how all the pressure is on the Clippers. Is there another player in the league that handles pressure like Kawhi Leonard?
Currently, yeah, maybe not.
That's where I'm leaning with this. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means.
No.
I think you're going to see some Toronto, Philly, Magic last-minute shot business happening here. I think the Clippers are going to sneak this out. It's going to be an ugly win. This is not going to be a highlight game. This is going to be very back and forth. This could even go into an overtime. I'm going to throw that out there. But I think when you have arguably the best player in the league in Kawhi Leonard on the court, and I know that Murray and Jokic have been playing lights out, but sometimes that Cinderella slipper falls off. I think it's going to happen tonight because I think Kawhi is going to step up and take this game over single-handedly. That being said, I think that you're going to have your LA versus LA matchup, and the Lakers, who, let's touch upon very quickly before we jump into the East, wrapped up shop against Houston. And now Houston is out a head coach.
Yeah.
Houston's unraveling.
Houston is falling apart. So, Coach, you got any takes on that?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously high on the Rockets and, liked what D'Antoni had done. I don't think he gets all the credit in the world. And obviously, what he deserved, really, what he did with this team. Goes back to what we said last week. I kind of feel like they should have implemented a little bit of a bigger lineup to start the game and then ran, the small ball lineup to end quarters just to really blow teams out, run, use your legs and your stamina and your wheels that you have to, help pace the game a little bit better. But ultimately, they led with the small ball lineup and it took a lot of teams by surprise. I kind of thought they were going to have a better start in series against the Lakers. Ultimately, Anthony Davis and LeBron proved to be too much, and Russell Westbrook just shut them out of games.
Yeah.
I mean, really, this just boils down to, and I don't think the Russell Westbrook trade was necessarily a bad trade. Obviously, some of the pieces that they gave up, yes. Yeah. But the swapping of Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook, I didn't think was necessarily bad because James Harden needs to have the ball in his hand. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, if I'm Houston this offseason, I'm still trying to get a coach that's going to let James Harden run in isolation and pick and roll sets because that's ultimately where he's best at. And I almost think that you need to go out and it's going to be difficult to trade Russell Westbrook at this point, but I kind of think that you have to. The experiment didn't work. Very obvious that it doesn't work. The two of them don't work together. I know that they're friends and they have good chemistry, but James Harden needs to be the ball dominant guard. So you almost need like a Mike Conley or a Ricky Rubio type point guard to pair with him if you want James Harden to continue to play the off guard, where, a la the 76ers and Eric Young and Allen Iverson, he can play defense against bigger guards, so James Harden doesn't need to do it. And he can get him the ball in sets where, you might want to run him off of a screen or something. So he doesn't have to dominate the ball, but that's what they need to pair him with. The ball dominant guard, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, doesn't work with James Harden.
Fully agree on that, Pat.
D'Antoni, real quick, looking like he's eyeing the 76er job. I don't think that's the right avenue for him either.
Definitely not the right avenue.
You talk about the fact that you want to play 7 seconds or less, and now you want to go to a team where you've got two bigs that are fighting over the paint. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So hopefully D'Antoni reevaluates that situation and finds himself in a little bit of a better spot.
Yeah, no, I definitely think D'Antoni deserves a little bit of credit for what he's been able to do. Obviously it hasn't worked out, but I think it goes back to, Ken, what you, Dog, and I were saying on Sunday when the news came out that he was, not fired, but he was informing the Rockets that he was not coming back, is maybe the small ball just wasn't it, and maybe he should have not given up, but like, all right, let's forget about this, because the small ball only works for so long and so much, especially when you're going up against LeBron James, who is listed at 6'9", and Anthony Davis, who's listed at 6'10".
Yeah, exactly.
When the basketball the rim is like 8 or 10 feet off the ground, doing small ball against guys who are more than half the height up there doesn't exactly work. I think you got to give the Russell Westbrook thing maybe one more year, because I forget whether it was Russell or Harden who said it. They said they're one piece away, and maybe that's true. I think you got to give it one more year, bring in another piece. I don't know who. I'm not even going to sit here and try to guess, but I think you got to bring in somebody, give it one more shot, and if it doesn't work after next year, even with the new head coach, that's when you got to try and trade Russell Westbrook.
I fully think that they do need one more piece. They need height. They need size.
Yeah.
I think they also need to switch away from the small ball, like Coach was talking about. That I think D'Antoni did what he could down there, but with the lineup they had, you can only do so much. And the one area they never addressed is they never got a sizable force underneath. I mean, they had Trevor Ariza for a little bit.
Right. Well, I mean, this is the thing, though, with the small ball and why they went to it, is because Russell Westbrook is such a rim attacker.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to pull up and shoot the step back threes like a James Harden or an Eric Gordon or an Austin Rivers, style guard that does that. He finishes at the rim. And when you have a center that dominates the paint like a Clint Capella, which is why they traded him, it clashes chemistry-wise. They ran 5 out, and you can't run 5 out with Clint Capella.
Yeah.
So my thing of starting Tyson Chandler is mostly just to have a defensive presence in the early part of the game, and then you switch to the small ball lineup.
Sure. I mean, just for some stats, during the regular season, the Houston Rockets were 18th in the NBA with 44.3 rebounds per game.
Yeah, so they obviously have to figure something out there. I know the name that was going around was Tyron Lue.
Jock Vaughn is also interviewing. Yeah,
and I heard Jeff Van Gundy.
Yeah, I've heard him for a couple of teams.
Sons of bitches.
I know.
I swear to God, I will not be happy. I will not be happy.
I won't.
If he comes out to coach this team, I will be pissed.
I don't think he will, but I know he was one of the names that was highly rumored, so I don't know exactly what the deal is there.
He is such an asshole. He's such a dick.
I'm really feeling the love between you two.
I do. I mean,
if you're a Knicks fan, you love
I
Van
had
Gundy.
my fondest memories with him. I mean, my youth was growing up with him holding onto Alonzo Mourning's leg, but this son of a bitch just teases and pulls the heartstring of Knicks fans. I'm interested in coming back to coaching. Well, conveniently, the Knicks have an open position. Yeah, no, I'm not interested in coaching. And then all of a sudden, the goddamn Rockets. Every freaking time with him.
I don't know what it is about Houston and him.
I don't know. I don't get it.
It's always something.
It's
but we'll have to wait and see who winds up being the head coach, because they need to definitely do some work down there. And like I said, I think they're one piece away. I just don't know who that player is.
It's not Russell Westbrook.
But with Russell Westbrook, if they want to try doing a 3-way trade, that might be an idea too.
Let's do it.
So who knows? Maybe Russell will come to New York.
No, I won't
don't start that now.
Chris Paul.
Yeah, Chris Paul. That's a possibility. That's a name heavily getting rumored right now.
Yes, it is.
So we'll have to kind of wait and see about that. And let's flip gears quickly to tonight. Kicks off the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, it does.
Miami versus Boston.
So, Coach, what's your feelings on this one?
So Ken, as Knicks fans growing up in that era where it was the Heat and not so much the Celtics, because they had some bad years while the Knicks were prominent during the that late '90s stretch. Is it bad for me to cheer for the Heat?
As a Knicks fan, yes.
I feel the same thing. I feel very awkward doing it.
It's so...
but it's Jimmy Butler.
Like, it's not only is it Jimmy Butler, but I feel as though because the Knicks have been so bad, that the rivalry with Miami is dead.
Oh, that's long dead.
Like it's long dead, because once it flipped over to the big three, it
was dead. It was
Miami. It was Miami versus everybody.
Yeah, and because they had that series against the Knicks with Melo.
They had the series,
so it's still a little fresh.
But then it just dropped
But
off.
it's still a little dead. And I feel like I should hate Boston more now.
See, I can't hate Boston on this aspect, which I know it's weird.
Because Jason Tatum.
I know.
It sucks. It sucks to be a Knicks fan.
It's so awkward picking a team for this.
It's our outside of Brooklyn being in this. This is the worst nightmare for Knicks
Oh,
fans.
we can only get so lucky.
Next year.
If Brooklyn gets here, trust me, it's going to be about 25 minutes of coaching.
Right,
I just completely ranting.
That would be the worst case scenario. If it was like Miami, Brooklyn, it's Miami all day.
Oh,
but
yeah.
if it's like Boston, Brooklyn, like, what do you do with that? If it's Philly and Brooklyn, what do you do with that?
We only cover the Western Conference then.
Right.
That'll be it. We just won't even mention the East doesn't happen. The East doesn't exist.
So, I mean, and just because the Knicks are so, like, it's almost like, locally, how Forks High School and Shenango Valley, like, have their rivalry. And, like, all the Valley people are like, oh, down with Forks. But then everybody outside of it's like, guys, stop. Like, that's how I feel as a Knicks fan. I feel like just that outside person just looking in being like, the rivalries are dead. The rivalries are dead.
It is until the Knicks get back to prominence.
Which will be when we're 70 and not able to enjoy it because we can't enjoy things anymore.
Yeah, this is true. So,
I mean, listen, I'm cheering for Miami just by default because Jimmy Butler and playoff Jimmy is a ton of fun, and I feel like he got robbed last year in that series against Kawhi in Toronto.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he really was amazing. So, Miami.
Pad?
I think it's going to end up being Boston. I mean, you look at how both teams got there. Boston swept Philly in 4 games in the first round, took the Raptors to Game 7, I believe, and ended up beating them. On the flip side, the Heat swept Indiana in the first round and then
dominated.
and then beat the Milwaukee Bucks to shock everybody.
Dominated them.
To shock everybody and get to the Eastern Conference.
Giannis in my ankle.
Soft.
Jimmy Butler is good. Had the voting not been for MVP, not been predetermined before the pandemic shut everything down, I think you'd have a real case for putting Jimmy Butler in that conversation.
I mean, playoff Jimmy absolutely
Playoff
should
Jimmy's
always be in
a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, but I just think, eventually the clock has got to strike midnight for Cinderella. Eventually the magic's got to wear out. And I just looking at, the starting 5 for Boston, Cardiac Kemba. Hi, as a Syracuse Orange basketball fan, that man has ruined my life for a few years when he was in college. You got Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and then Daniel Theis. I just like their starting 5, and I just think the clock might be striking midnight for Miami, but he's proven me wrong before.
Who would ever thought that we would got here for our Eastern Conference Finals?
It's the first.
I mean,
It was either Milwaukee or Toronto.
It was Milwaukee and Toronto. Well, I mean, we said that if any team could take them, it's Boston.
Yeah.
We definitely did not see Miami.
Miami
doing
was
this.
not on the radar about this one.
I mean, it is the first Eastern Conference Finals in NBA history without a number 1 or number 2 seed.
And I mean, they embarrassed Milwaukee.
Yeah, Milwaukee got exposed. I mean, I think that for us realizing how great Giannis is, he needs help. And that traveling cast that he has with him is just not the people.
I'm just gonna say, when the whole Scotty controversy came out, and then he got his ankle hurt, and then kind of, my ankle hurts, I'm kind of gonna duck out. Yeah. I mean, we all watched the Jordan documentary.
Yeah,
we all saw what Scotty did.
And when the Scotty comparison first came out, I was like, it's just people looking and reading into it too much. That series went on, and I'm like, yeah, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, Milwaukee, I mean, they're not the people that are really going to step up to do this. And it showed. I mean, when Giannis went down, they needed somebody to step up, and if they're really a true number 1 seed.
Well, they played well in the game that he initially went down. I mean, Chris Middleton really stepped up, but then without him in that would have been Game 5.
They got exposed.
They had nothing.
They got exposed.
Yeah.
So for this, Jimmy Butler, I think he would make an amazing Knick if somehow we could wind up pulling some strings.
We can go back in time.
I'm
having flashbacks.
And I know Tyler Hero has been on a roll down.
So much fun.
But
there's no shot Tyler Hero does not like, period.
Exactly.
DMs or basketball, baby.
But I can't go with Miami.
Oh.
I can't. I'm sorry.
Come on.
One, I will always remember the vision.
Playoff Jimmy.
I understand that, but I always remember that image of the Miami fans leaving early.
Yeah.
From the championship finals.
Game 5.
No, it was
that was a different Miami team.
It was Game 6 when they left when Ray Allen hit the shot. They all left before.
Oh, okay.
Listen, that Miami team, that Miami group of fans, that's a different Miami group now. That's not this Miami group. This Miami group is hard nosed. They're behind Jimmy. That group of fans back then was cherry picking.
That initial group of fans left and became Cleveland fans, and then left and became
exactly.
Lakers fans.
I know a dude specifically I'm friends with on Facebook. And it's not who you think it's somebody else who was was a Miami Heat fan, quote unquote. And when LeBron came, LeBron, I'm so happy he's here. And then when LeBron left, he was the first one on Facebook. We never needed LeBron. LeBron's a bum. Yeah, you know who you are. Yeah. You saw what you said. You know what you said. So those fans, take them and put them aside. This is a different class of Miami fan. This is the 98 group of Miami fans.
And I still can't root for him because I'm still bitter about New York.
That's fine. That's all right. That I can understand.
Yeah. But I think this Miami Heat team has been a surprise, a good one for the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to push this to 7 games. I fully do.
I think so, too.
I fully think they're going to win in 6.
I'm saying Celtics in 7.
Yeah, I'm saying the same
thing. Kemba is going to show up. Tatum is going to have a breakout game.
Except he's going to be covered by Jimmy Butler.
And this is where he's going to prove if he's a true superstar or not.
Real quick about Jimmy, if we may.
Sure.
In today's NBA, where superstars don't typically cover the other team's number one. Because in Milwaukee, it's a little bit different because Giannis doesn't cover the number one because they want him to be able to get off ball to help defensively because he's so tall and lengthy. Mm-hmm. But, you've got other superstars who, don't cover the number one. That's not Jimmy. No, that's not my Jimmy. Jimmy covers number one, baby.
Jimmy has no fear.
Jimmy will cover anybody. And I love it. I love it so much.
I'm just hoping.
I'm going to sell you on rooting for Miami by the time we finish this because Tyler Hero is the man on and off the court. Kelly Olynyk, dude's still in the NBA. Ken, Kelly Olynyk's still in the NBA, who used to play for Boston, mind you.
Oh, I remember him.
Then, not to mention, you got Goran Dragic, who's got one of the coolest names in all of the NBA, and Bam Abadade, who I can't even say his damn name, but he blocks shots like crazy.
You know what I think it is?
And was an all-star.
I think it's just Coach just can't root for Enes Kanter.
This is true.
Oh shit! I forgot. I forgot he was even in the series.
Former WWE 24/7 champ.
I love. I mean, obviously, Ken, Duke fans, Tatum, is near and dear our heart. I also, really do like Gordon Hayward and root for him, especially after obviously the gruesome injury that he suffered last year. Mm-hmm. But I mean, on the real though, Jimmy Butler is near and dear my heart, and I cannot not root for this man to be successful.
Like I say, it's not a matter of I'm rooting against him.
Sure. But you're not rooting for his team, which is indirectly rooting against him. Well, so, Ken, by your own logic, you're now cheering for Miami.
Then I'm going to abstain from the Eastern Conference. So, no, but I look at it like this.
Carry the one.
I'm doing my Steiner math about this one. I look at it like this. I think the Celtics are just an overall better team. And I think that where Jimmy Butler makes up a lot of ground for his team and does instill an identity of toughness to Miami, which I think they never had this before he got there. I think that he's going to will them as much as he can, but I think that Kemba's going to step up. I think Tatum's going to step up. I think the Celtics are going to be the ones to pull this off.
I mean, Jimmy Butler can't cover everybody.
Exactly.
As much as I like to think that he can, he can't. He's only one man.
He'll do what he can. He's going to keep them in games. He's going to win a couple that they shouldn't win.
Sure.
And that's why I said I think it could go 7, and I think the Celtics are just going to sneak it out. I'm not saying they're going to blow out by any means.
I can't take another Lakers. How? And let's talk about the fact that if the Lakers play Miami, how fun that will be, the narrative that will be with the Lakers, because here will be King James, going to LA, the Hollywood, the glam, the lights. He left Miami, and now here's Jimmy Butler, this quiet, came up through JUCO, the story, 13 years old, left on his own, friend to friend's house, grinding his way into college basketball to Marquette, not on anybody's draft board, left on Chicago's bench, now leading the once-led LeBron James Miami Heat team to the NBA Finals against him. That is a Goliath versus David, a David versus Goliath story.
It is.
You're welcome, NBA. I just wrote your NBA Finals.
It's an amazing story if it can happen. I just don't think they're going to get past Boston.
God damn it, Ken.
Sorry.
I tried the pageantry. I tried everything.
I know. It's
I really thought I had you there. I thought I captured the story with that.
No, I root for Jimmy Butler as a person. I think his story is amazing. I just can't root for Miami willingly. That's
All
just
right.
me. But if Miami does go against the Lakers, I will be cheering for Miami. I will say that.
Okay, good. That
Yeah.
at least deal.
Yeah, I'll say that. Whoever comes out of the East, because I'd like to see the Eastern Conference stop the Lakers onslaught. Nothing against the Lakers, but
I just don't want another Laker-Boston thing, because then we're going to have to deal with that whole thing. And ugh.
But here's the thing. If anybody can stop the narrative that is the Lakers, because the Lakers are just running roughshod over everybody.
Right.
If somebody can stop it and make a good storyline of it, sure. I want to see that. I want to see competition, because I don't want to see a 4-game sweep and Lakers win by 25 every night.
Ugh.
That is what I fear is going to happen. So if somebody can put a stop to that and make some compelling basketball, I'm going to root for that.
All right.
And that's what I say tonight.
I agree.
And tonight, like I say, I'm calling the Clippers and I'm calling the Celtics. But hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. Who are you calling in Game 7 and Game 1 of the NBA Conference Finals today? We definitely want to have that conversation. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
My name is Paige, and I'm the host of Reverie True Crime. Reverie means to daydream, but even daydreams can become nightmares. Come join me and get lost in horrific reverie about true crimes and eerie events. Reverie True Crime Podcast, available wherever you stream your favorite podcasts.
This is Rich, the host of the Three Fat Nerds podcast and co-host of the Horror Zone 607 podcast, and you are listening to our hashtag 607 podcast brothers, the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Now kick it back over to Ken Moneybags and the crew.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and let us talk some UFC action. They're definitely going in with a lot of great fights right before UFC 253 next week. But this past Saturday, though, there was a fight night with Michelle Waterson and Angela Hill, women's strawweight, which went to decision. I will say this, it was one of the best fights I've seen all year.
Okay.
Very back and forth with Angela Hill, with Michelle Waterson, though, getting the decision. Hill was definitely working the striking the first 2 rounds. Waterson was implementing a lot of wrestling in the last 2 and really took control of the 5th round, which could have gone either way. So definitely kicked off a good month here of fights, as that was the 12th. Now we're going into the 19th. Saturday night, we're back in Vegas. Pad, you got the fight card, because this is a hell of a fight night that should be a pay-per-view, in my opinion.
Yeah, it arguably could be. So taking place this Saturday, September 19th, from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Taking place on ESPN Plus, I believe. I'd have to double-check that. You have headlining the card Colby Covington taking on Tyron Woodley in the welterweight division. Co-maining event, you have Donald Cowboy Cerrone taking on Nico Price in the co-main event. Also fighting, you have podcast favorite Johnny Walker fighting at the light heavyweight division. It's a great card.
Yes, and the middleweight card is Kazmat Chivev fighting, and he is the gentleman that has been fighting, it seems like, every month this year. He is the one that is the new big thing, and if you've never seen a fight, he is must watch for that middleweight division. He is a very, very scary man. Very scary. So let's kind of break down the top 2 of this the main card here. And let's go Donald Cerrone versus podcast favorite Nico Price, because Nico follows the show.
This is true.
So, Pat, you have any feelings on this one?
This, to me, is, going to be very interesting, just because you look at Donald Cowboy Cerrone's record: 52 professional matches, 36 wins, 15 losses, lost his last 4 in a row. Although they are 2 very top-tier AAA talent, knocked out by Tony Ferguson, knocked out by Justin Gaethje, knocked out by Conor McGregor, and then unanimous decision against Anthony Showtime Pettis. On the flip side, Nico Price, 19 professional matches, 14 wins, 4 losses, kind of like a win-lose type scenario. Lost his last fight against Vicente Luque by a doctor stoppage. Won his previous fight before that against James Vick, who he knocked out. Before that, he lost to James Neal by TKO. Beat Tim Means by a knockout. So, I mean, if I'm just looking, win, loss, maybe he's due for a win.
If you've never seen Nico fight, Nico is pretty much reminds me a lot of Clay Guida.
Ah, okay.
Like, he is a wild man when he gets in the cage. And he definitely throws hands, throws kicks. He gets into brawls. For Donald Cerrone, this feels to me like a must-win fight.
Yeah.
I don't know about it. What are you thinking, Coach?
I mean, yeah, you talk about those last performances. You talk about how UFC, when guys are coming up on Father Time and towards the end of their career, the willingness that they have to either say, hey, you can retire a UFC fighter or we're going to cut you.
Yeah.
And I know as much of a fan favorite as Cerrone is, but I mean, the same story happened to Liddell and other great fighters before them. You know, I mean, if you're not winning, there's guys behind you that will.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, the Tony Ferguson loss, I believe, was the one where he had, the busted nose? And he went to blow it, and that's, huge no-no. So the doctor stopped it. Gaethje knocked him out in the first round. Connor knocked him out 40 seconds into the first round.
Shoulder shot of doom.
And then Showtime, he went the distance. I love Cowboy Cerrone. I got a hell of a lot of respect for the man. Let's not forget when Anderson Silva was supposed to be taking on whatever Diaz brother it was in Brazil, and that Diaz brother had not yet shown up to Brazil yet. Cerrone was saying, hey, if y'all need me to fight, I'm here and at weight. The man is ready to fight on the drop of a dime, drop of a hat, if you will. Always been a go-getter, always been a slugger, never one to back down from any fight. But I'm afraid we're quickly reaching a Chuck Liddell level where, like I said, 52 professional matches. That's a lot. That's a lot of tread on the tires. 37 years old. He's been doing it a very long time. Ever since his first professional fight was way back in February of 2006.
Yeah.
That's a lot of tread on the tires, and I'm just afraid that Father Time has not only caught up with him. It's to quote Anthony Mackie in Avengers or Captain America 2. On your left.
Yeah, this is something that he...
Or a quote cap, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he really needs to pull off something here. And I think it's safe to say that everybody here is a Cerrone fan. I mean, for a gentleman that lives the lifestyle anytime, any place, anywhere, who is known to walk around, fight cards at fight weight in case somebody needed to have a fill-in.
And he says anytime, any place, anywhere. He's not just saying it.
It's not a saying.
He's not just saying it to look good or look cool. He legitimately means it.
Yeah, he definitely showed up. I remember you were talking about the Nate Diaz fight.
Thank you.
He was ready to just step in when Nate was MIA at the time.
He wasn't even MIA. He just hadn't gotten down to Brazil yet. And Cerrone literally, I think, put out on Twitter, hey, I'm here and at weight if you need me.
Yeah. Cerrone lives that lifestyle. He's a UFC legend. Belt or no belt. He will definitely go down in the echelons of UFC history. This card, though, I got to give it to Nico.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is going to be an easy fight. If anything, this is going to be a fun fight for striking.
Yes.
As much as Cerrone is a submission specialist and he can submit people left and right, Nico likes to stand there and bang. So I'm expecting a lot of wild-ass punches and kicks.
Yeah.
They're going to be just letting it all hang out.
Yeah.
And I think Nico is going to wind up winning this, and it's going to be a fun one to watch, like I say.
Yeah, it's definitely a big test for Nico. No disrespect to anybody he's ever beaten, but this is, it's names I recognize, but it's not any names I'm like, ooh, you fought that person and beat them. This is for me, it's the first name that I'm like, all right, this is your first real big test here, boy.
Well, he really steps in there, and he's always in the fights. Like, that's one thing. He's somebody that, like I say, he stands in the pocket too long.
Yeah.
If there's anything I can critique, he stands there and takes way too many shots.
Yeah.
Way too many. But that's what makes you an exciting fighter, and that's why, like I say, I compare with Clay Guida.
Sure.
Because Clay would go in there and scrap with everybody, and he would know enough to kind of back off and try implement something else. He'd stand there and bang, but that's why fans love him.
Yeah.
So the same thing can be said for Nico. Like I say, we're lucky he follows us here on the podcast, so what up, Nico, and good luck this weekend.
Yes.
But this is going to be this feels like a main event, but it's not a main event, and like I said, Nico should definitely pull off the win here. If he doesn't, I think Cerrone keeps his on the payroll one more fight at least, and if not, Dana's got to make a decision sooner or later. And I hate saying that, but it's at the same stage like we were talking about with Liddell. You have to make a point sometime when the fighter is just not the same fighter at this stage.
No.
Now we're going to the main event.
Yep. That is in the welterweight division. Colby Covington taking on Tyron Woodley. Colby Covington in 17 professional matches has a 15-2 record. And on the flip side, Tyron Woodley in 25 professional matches has a record of 19-5.
Coach, any feelings on this one?
Well, I mean, Colby Covington is a goon, so I'm really pulling for Tyron Woodley. I also hope he puts a better performance, like I've mentioned many times before, than he did on the show Titans, because that was embarrassing. So hopefully maybe he has that in his back pocket when he was training, thinking about how he was embarrassed on national TV against some average Joe who beat him in the Titan games, and he's like sitting there and he's got a picture of him and Colby next to each other by the punching bag, and he's like, I lost, I hate you, Colby. And maybe he's just getting angry and getting fired up, and I hope he puts on a hell of a performance.
Pat?
I'm kind of in the same boat as Coach. I got no love lost for Colby Covington. He's the new Conor McGregor.
Watch it.
In that, Conor talked a lot of shit, and I wanted to see him get his ass checked. Get his ass checked just to see how he handled it. Colby, for me, is very much in the same vein. He talks a lot of shit. He's beaten Robbie Lawler and Rafael Dos Anjos and Damian Maia.
I've beaten Robbie Lawler.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'll say you might be getting a knock on your door tonight from Robbie Lawler. But he's been a shit talker. But at least for me, he's never been able to back it up. And I want to see him. He lost it. Colby lost his last fight against Kamaru Usman. He got knocked out in the 5th round, and that was for the welterweight championship. I want to see him get his ass checked again. I just cannot stand Colby Covington, and so ergo, I'm rooting for Tyron.
This fight has a lot of storylines going in with it. Tyron Woodley, former welterweight champion, has never really gotten back on the same winning streak since he's lost the belt. And I don't want to say that he's now getting surpassed by the younger fighters coming up in the game, but he's definitely looking out of place right now currently.
Okay.
His last couple of performances, he has not looked like the guy that won the belt.
So he lost against Kamaru Usman back in March of last year. That was for the welterweight championship. And then his most recent fight was a unanimous decision loss to Gilbert Burns back in May.
Yeah, he just does not look the same. I mean, well, when you fight Usman, the beating that Woodley took in that fight was absolutely horrific to watch.
I still.
Yeah. The shots he took.
That was a different Usman, too, because, now Usman as champion is not the same fighter as he was Usman versus Woodley.
Yeah.
True.
So now what are we going to get out of Tyron Woodley? We're also going to ask what are we getting out of Colby Covington? And say what you will about him, the character that he portrays, because it's not even him doing the trash talking.
Shtick.
It's a whole shtick. The whole MAGA stuff.
It's an annoying shtick, though.
Yeah. But he's getting ratings and he's getting people to watch him get his ass whooped. But take the character away from him. He is a hell of a fighter. He fights at a very high frenetic pace. He can definitely use his wrestling to win. I'm hoping Woodley pulls this off. But I'm fearing Covington's going to win because I'm really tired of his act. I really just wish he would try not being the evil Conor, shall we say, with the promos.
Sure.
Because
I just don't like all these Conor comparisons.
Well, it's the one thing when a fighter is known for being controversial and charismatic on a microphone.
Sure.
You're going to get that comparison because when Chael Sonnen opened the door, Conor walked through it.
Oh, yeah. Chael was...
He walked through it. Conor doesn't walk through Chael Sonnen's door.
He struts.
He bucked that goddamn door to the ground and then strutted through it.
Yeah, no, Chael opened the door. Chael was very good at the trash talk, but he did it in a fun way. He was never an ass about it.
Asterisk by that with Anderson Silva.
Yeah, Anderson Silva's a lone exception. Conor, as much as he was an ass, and kind of annoying and loud and boisterous, he backed it up. He was able to step up and back it up. And to this point, the only people who have ever been able to put a feather in their cap that they knocked him out, they beat him, or whatever Diaz brother it was in Habib.
Nate.
But Conor, he trash talked, but at the end of the day, it was all business. He get out of, he trash talked against Cerrone, and when he fought Cerrone, but then coming out of the Cerrone fight, he had all the respect in the world for Cerrone. He went up. There was that video after the fight of he went up to Cerrone's grandmother.
Yeah,
and said, "Hey, listen, your grandson's a hell of a fighter. He's a great man, and I got all the respect for him in the world, and I hope you do well." So I got respect for Conor in that aspect. I got no respect for Colby.
Yeah,
because Colby, to me, and I get it's a shtick, I get it's a character, I get he's playing up the wrestling, WWE aspect of it, but he'd knock a guy out and walk past his grandmother and go, "Hey, your grandson's a piece of shit."
Yeah,
I got no respect for the guy. If you can talk trash, But if at the end of the day it's all business and you show respect, I'll respect the hell out of you. Colby doesn't respect anybody.
No, Colby doesn't. Colby, like I said, has fully bought into this piece of shit character that he's created, and he's staying to it. He's staying kayfabe, if we're going to keep it wrestling terms. But that being said, though, I think Colby does win this fight, unfortunately, and then he's now back in title contention talk because I think that he's just too fast for Woodley. I think Woodley needs to go out here and implement some wrestling. The first couple rounds are going to be boring if Woodley fights a smart fight because he needs to grapple with him. He needs to slow Colby down. If Colby can implement his pace, it's going to be a long night for Woodley, and Woodley is going to need to catch him. I just don't know if he has the speed at this stage to do it. So we're going to have to wait to see what happens on Saturday night. But funny you mentioned about the Diaz brothers, because I was actually going to mention this for Rounding the Bases, but I'll say it now. So Nate has been the lone Diaz brother that's been the one fighting Conor. He's been the most charismatic one as of late. But the legend that is his brother Nick, who was the one that was supposed to fight Anderson Silva fought Anderson Silva way back when, who has been very charismatic in his own right. He's almost like a MMA legend, if you will, because he's an enigma to try figuring out. Nick does what Nick does. It has now been reported Nick is eyeing to return to MMA in 2021.
War Stockton.
So, Coach, how do you feel about this?
I mean, it'll be interesting to see where the UFC kind of plugs him into and what kind of fight they look for him to have. Obviously, he's been out of the fight game for how many years now? I mean,
it's been a
couple. Yeah. I mean, so it'll be interesting to see if they kind of lead with a name or if, Conor rumors was that, he was having UFC officials on his boat while he was vacationing and not getting in trouble. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe that's the route that they take. I know that's been talked before about bringing the Diaz in for, that Conor fight. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I just don't know where they'll go because, I mean, you've won two options. Either you put him in with a mid-level, card guy just to get, him a fight before you lead him into a bigger fight, or you plug and play and you go from there.
Pat?
Diaz brothers, no matter if it's Nick or Nate, are good for MMA and UFC. They are gold, win, lose, or draw. I will never forget the one instance, I forget if it was Nick or Nate, when it was a UFC on Fox card that he won.
Oh, that's Nate.
And then went on a 30 to 45 second swearing, rant or whatever it was, and the censors had to just cut the audio for 30. So you're watching the fight, you might be able to find it on YouTube, but he's talking to Joe Rogan in the octagon, and the sound just cuts out for 30 to 45 seconds, and he was dropping F-bombs the entire time. And they come back, and Joe goes, hey, we're on Fox. I don't give a fuck. So the Diaz brothers are great for MMA. They're great for viewers. I don't care where you plug him in. Just I'm going to tune in.
The Diaz brothers, like I say, are MMA enigmas because they just do what they want. They have the arguably most rabid fan base in all of MMA. If you are a Diaz brothers fan, you love the Diaz brothers. To see Nick come back, because Nate has been dabbling in and out, and he's waiting for the right fight. I think the smart fight you do with Nate is you have him against Masvidal. I think that fight I know has been almost just signed. They need to run that one back for the BMF title, and I think you give Nick Conor McGregor.
Why not?
That's the only fight that makes sense to me. I know if Nate or Nick can beat Conor, that is going to elevate him into he could be in a contender title fight. He can definitely do that right off the gate.
Absolutely.
Nick is definitely a gamer. He'll fight anybody. He is not afraid to ruffle some feathers. He's not afraid to do anything crazy. You can go through his MMA repertoire, and you can see the names he's fought over the years. One thing, he'll bleed, and he'll come out swinging, and that Stockton jab is going to be there all night. He can go to the ground with everybody. He is, like I say, he's an MMA legend. To see him come back, they need to give him somebody that is a big name, and if it's not Conor, it's got to be Masvidal. It's one of those two fighters. I think anybody else would, I don't want to say be a gimme fight, but it would almost be not that much big of a sizzle. Like you would almost expect Nick to come in there and just win roughshod. I mean, personally, I would love to see him fight Leon Edwards. I don't know if that's going to happen because Leon Edwards doesn't move the needle because he's not a charismatic fighter, but he just wins. So what do you take away from that? But for me, you have to put Nick in there. You got to give him a big name off the gate. And like I said, what bigger name could you give him other than Conor? And that would generate ratings galore.
Facts.
So many storylines going on with the UFC, and obviously there's a big fight night going on this Saturday night, so check out ESPN Plus wherever you watch your MMA action. But hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts about this weekend's UFC action, and what is your thoughts about Nick Diaz returning to the UFC? We need to have that conversation. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio tank, taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio tank, taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and let's round those bases and take this show home. Pad, lead us off.
Yeah, got to talk a little bit of baseball because we are in the final 2 weeks of the regular season, and it was and a deal was finalized today between Major League Baseball and the Players Association to have a bubble format for the postseason. So what was agreed between Major League Baseball and the Players Association was they will have a bubble format of sorts, not quite like the NBA where they're just playing all their games in one specific area, but a centralized location that will eventually shrink down to just one location. So what they have is, so with the playoffs this year, instead of the usual 10 teams, it will be 16 teams, obviously because of the pandemic and whatnot. Plus, I've been talking about this for a few years. So without getting into too many of the nitty-gritty, here's kind of what you need to know. The wild card games, which are a best-of-3 series, will take place at the home parks for the top seeded teams for all 3 games. After that, when you move to the League Division Series, for the National League Division Series, the games will be played at the Texas Rangers' new ballpark. That is Globe Life Field. And the Houston Astros ballpark. You can make your own jokes here because, well, fuck the Astros. And then in the American League Division Series, the games will be played in the San Diego Padres Stadium and then Dodgers Stadium. After that, in the National League Championship Series, the games will be played at Rangers Stadium and Padres Stadium, with the World Series being played at the Texas Rangers' new ballpark. Should note, this will be the first time Major League Baseball's championship will be played entirely at one site since 1944.
Wow, that is crazy.
Long time. So it should be real interesting. Glad to see it happen. Going to be real interesting to see that can of tuna new stadium Texas has got down there in Arlington, but looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely the safest way to do the World Series this year, so I'm all for it. Keep the players safe.
All warm weather cities, Texas, as much as I'm shitting on their new stadium, because Google it, it looks like a
tuna can.
It looks like a tuna can. It does have a retractable roof, so you're not going to have to worry about any rain delays like they did with the Phillies and Rays back in 2008. You're not going to have to worry about anything. You can just play straight through. You might have a delay if you got to close the roof and it takes 15 minutes for the damn thing to close. But should be good and should be fun to watch.
Coach?
Well, what I've got here is having to retire from being able to play in Summer League pickup lacrosse due to age.
We'll say father time.
Father time, yeah, and not being able to keep up with these college kids. I have taken up the sport that all retired athletes do, which is golf. And now with that comes my obsession of golf, and the U.S. Open is this weekend, ladies and gentlemen.
So you're making Sound Guy Galore JR real happy.
Yeah, there's somebody yelling in green right now.
Yeah, so I am very excited. Winged Foot's going to be played very tough this week. They have 7-inch rough right now, which is thick. You're talking about literally the ball going into this rough and disappearing. And without fans, luckily they have ball spotters, because if it goes in there, you're not going to find it.
Yeah.
And not even to mention the first cut is at 5 inches. So that is also thick. So it's going to be a hell of a weekend. If you're not, if you enjoy the skill of golf, that is what you're going to get this weekend. You're not going to get, Dustin Johnson running 30 under and just dominating a course. You're going to be lucky to see if a guy finishes this 1, maybe even 2 over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a skill. I mean, guys are going to be going for pars, not for birdies.
That is wild.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a hell of a week. If you enjoy golf and you enjoy the skill, that's what this is going to be.
Yeah, it's always something fun to watch. I mean, I'm not the biggest golfer,
Sure.
But it's something like if I catch on, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Sunday is going to probably be exciting because there's going to be a lot of guys in contention again, because, I mean, 1 over is going to be probably the score that wins. So, I mean, if they're 1 to 2 to 3 over, a lot of people are going to be in contention.
Definitely have to stay tuned for that. So
Plus, Tiger's playing.
Yeah, so that's always
Tiger.
It's always a plus.
Yeah, he's always headlined, so definitely he'll be drawing some ratings in, and definitely, obviously, it's a big golf course.
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame got booted to USA Network.
Yeah.
So I mean, that just goes to show you, where NBC's priority is to boot. Literally, for the first time, I think in like 20 years, Notre Dame off of coverage to USA Network goes to show you how important this tournament is.
Tiger equals ratings.
Yeah, facts.
And the stats don't lie. Look them up.
Yeah, no, for real. I mean, literally, NBC's bread and butter besides the Olympics is Notre Dame football, and it's getting booted for the U.S. Open.
Oh, yeah.
And they have an entire channel dedicated to golf.
Yeah.
You literally could have put 2 hours of coverage on the Golf Network. No. Notre Dame, you step aside. USF is not that important. You play on USA.
Yeah, that's absolutely wild to think about. So definitely stay tuned for that this weekend. I would say we would talk some wrestling, but I'm going to save it for twitch.tv/607 podcast. This past week, we had Johnny Moose on for Excite Wrestling, throwing the open challenge out to Josh Barnett. So that is on Twitch. That is making the rounds on the internet right now.
Smoke.
Yeah,
Moose wants to smoke.
Moose said he wanted to smoke. You have to hear the segment to fully understand it. And they just had their Drive Up Wrestling, their second show this past weekend at the Oakdale Mall, so shout out to them.
Never got the chance to say it, but I'll say it now. Greatest poster they've ever done.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, go to the Excite Facebook page.
Oh,
look it up.
the
photo of a Moose in like a graduation cap and gown, smiling with a thumbs up, is the greatest poster I've ever seen.
Fantastic.
It is amazing. I'm trying to tell him to make it on a T-shirt, at least a magnet.
Oh my God, he should.
I want to blow it up. I want to put it on here like a fathead.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the wrestling talk will go there, twitch.tv/607 podcast. But I'm just going to get right into locks and leaps.
Okay. All right.
If you've been following the show, you know we did the Invitational. The teams, the content creators, the podcasts, they all stepped up.
The wives
stepped up. Last minutes, we had a couple of people chime in. They said, hey, I want in. And we said, why not? So on our Yahoo group, in first place, Mrs. Coach Duffy.
Hey, shocker in our household, by the way.
With 11 points.
Hounding the lines. Hounding them.
Yes.
No advice, mind you. She wanted me to make sure I made this very, very clear. I gave her very minimal advice outside of like maybe if a player left and anything, but it was literally all her.
Yes. So Aaron is currently leading the division. Coach Duffy is tied in second with Ghost of the Stratosphere, Stu's Clues. Shout out to them. Three Fat Nerds, Wonder Soul, 30 and Nerdy, Tom from Off the Cuff Gaming, Tyler from Second Suitor, Colby Mack, myself. So Wizard, Padawan J, Evan the Great, and JVD from The Villain's Demand. Dre and Vinny are rounding out the field. So we'll have to see what goes on for week 2. So let's waste no more time. Here is our official picks for week 2 of the Locks and Leaps Invitational, starting with Coach Duffy.
So these lines this week, if nobody's gone in checked,
they're atrocious.
Are gross.
This is garbage.
This is really tough. I had my lock is going to be, because that's probably just the easiest. I'm going to go with, and I had it and now it's gone. I'm going to go with, oh God, I'm scrambling. I had it and now it's gone. The Bills. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. All right. 5.5-point favorites going down to Miami. Definitely going to think, I assume comfortably that they are going to win that game outright and cover. And my leap is going to be, Ped, I'm sticking with the AFC East. My leap is going to be the Patriots going into Seattle.
Funny you should mention that. I saw a stat on Twitter today. The Seahawks are currently favored by 4 points over the Patriots for this weekend. Presuming this holds, it will snap a streak of 64 straight regular season games the Patriots have been favored, the longest ever streak in the Super Bowl era.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Patriots played really well last week. I love what they're doing. I know 12th man in Seattle,
this
and
is true.
the decibel noise is only allowed at 78 decibels.
Yep.
So it's not going to be as loud and as rowdy as it is.
No.
And I love the fact that Cam Newton's going to run the ball and be aggressive on the run, and that just adds a wrinkle to an offense that teams aren't going to be prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a fun game of weekend.
Let's go AFC East.
The games are fun, but the lines are awful.
Yeah.
So I think that one's going to be the game of the weekend, though, Seattle and New England.
Yep. For my lock, I'm looking at the 49ers and Jets game. I know this might be low-hanging fruit, but hey, I'm going to take it.
Do it.
Currently, San Francisco is favored by 7 points, and with as god-awful as the Jets looked on Sunday against the Bills, it's not going to get any better for the Jets.
I just don't love West traveling east. That was my problem. I looked at it, too, and was like, oh. Because Jimmy Garoppolo did not look good against Arizona.
I think that normally that's the case, but it's
Sure.
god fucking awful as the Jets are. That I've talked to a few Jets fans, and they're ready to jump ship from the team.
They always are.
The tank for Trevor movement is on.
Yeah.
You know, I know a few who are even ready to switch allegiances from the Jets.
Yikes.
You know, so I think the Niners are going to be able to win that one. And then, again, crap lines, but I'm going to go with the Eagles as my leap for this. They are currently 1.5 point dog, or the Rams are currently favored by 1.5 points. I just think, you know, that game against the Cowboys was real close, and I think there's no way the Eagles will go 0-2. Doug Peterson and all the folks down there in Philly are going to rally the troops, circle the nests, whatever the hell they have. I just don't think there's any, in the games in Philly this week, I just don't think there's any way Philly's going to go 0-2.
That offensive line Carson Wentz in particular should be very worried about Aaron Donald, though.
That's true. That's true.
My God, he dominated 3 Cowboys on that one video that's going around.
He's going to be the biggest factor in that game. I will say for my leap, I actually took Philly too. So
all right.
Reason, and plus for the same reason you mentioned, Coach, West Coast team traveling east, 1:00 game.
Fair enough.
Did not really feel the Rams on this one. In fact, I wasn't really that impressed with them on Sunday night.
Sure,
so.
that I can agree with because they did not look good.
No, they didn't look good. Dallas.
Same old Dallas.
Same old Dallas. But I actually took them as my...
I knew you were going to go.
I took them as my... You can tell my segue's coming a mile away. I actually took the Cowboys, though, -5 against... Who is Atlanta?
I'm just staying away from what is Atlanta. I'm just staying away from it. I want nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. I looked at it, too, and I was like, you know what? Cowboys stink. Falcons suck. Nothing to do with that game.
I thought, Pat, you were going to say something.
No, just in regards to the Rams, you know, they didn't look good. What did look good? The new stadium.
Yeah, that new stadium looked on point.
No?
That new stadium.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
That stadium, real sexy.
Man, but of course, Jerry Jones.
But of course, for that price tag, it better goddamn look sexy.
Jerry Jones was probably hella jealous when he walked into that building.
When he saw that revolving Teletron there.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's like...
he was probably texting an engineer friend of his going, how can we make this work?
They made a comment on it. Like, I guess Kroenke brought Jones in to take a tour, and like Al Michaels' quote from Jerry Jones, you could just feel was a little slighted, you know, with the comment that he made. So yeah, but the stadium is beautiful. I mean,
real sexy.
Good because the LA people fitted the bill, so they better be happy.
Yeah, because the football teams absolutely suck. So I'm sorry. The Chargers did not impress me, and I'm sorry, the Rams. You're not selling me other than your defense, and that's only because of Aaron Donald.
Sure.
So that's what I said. I went with Dallas on this one, and I took Philly as my leap. So
and that terrible belly tattoo by Zeke.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I have no words for that.
Like you gotta have like that bottom, like the Chuck Liddell and the fat guy abs. Like if he had that tattoo, it would work because then he could still have the fat. But Zeke's doesn't have that. He just has a belly.
Hey, breaking news for what it's worth. 49ers are signing Mohamed Sanu. 1-year deal.
Well, I mean, that's because Deebo Samuel's out. So
yep.
Smart move for them. So
yeah.
A lot of moves late breaking going into week 2. We gave you our locks and leaps. Definitely join in the conversation on social media. You can find all our links at OchoDuroParlayHour.com to make your locks and leaps known. And if you're in our Yahoo group, we still got a lot of football left to play, so don't get too discouraged.
Rough week.
It was
a rough week coming up.
It was a rough week, so definitely this one is going to be kind of separating the pack a little bit. I can't wait to get into it. And we'll have to see who's the champ at the end of week 2. So that all being said, the music you heard on this episode of the ODPH podcast is that of Fair City Fire. Now, as you're listening to the show, and depending on when you hear this, there is an event going on in Austin, Texas that Brian Wolf is actually playing at. Oh. So it's a little benefit show. So if you want to find out more about that and everything going on with Fair City Fire, just head on over to OchoDuroParlayHour.com, hit up the music section, and it'll take you right to all of their links. Also, it'll take you to Shout at the Robots, Fair City Fire, Second Suitor, and all the great music you hear on the ODPH. Also, on our website, you can check out our directory, which has friends of the show, such as Tom from Off the Cuff Gaming, Excite Wrestling, organizational links to Black Lives Matter, and voter registration. Plus, you get to check out all the Podchaser lists for all the amazing groups that we are in. So shout out to Pod Nation, shout out to Legion Independent Podcast, shout out to Alternate Reality Radio, shout out to Hashtag 607 Podcast, and shout out to the Apocalypse, who is actually pod rating us this week. So thank you to everybody who's been leaving reviews, doing subscriptions, downloads. It means the world to us, so thank you, thank you, thank you. And also shout out to our friends over at 8122 Productions, Rich, Ron, Hashtag Big Natty Cool, still on Twitter, Pad.
Oh, boy.
He has not gotten kicked off yet. He is bringing you all the heat, and if you want to find out what we are talking about each and every week. Sign up for their Patreon. $1 gets you in the door. $3 gets you a comfy seat at the table. All of that and so much more at OchoDuroParlayHour.com. That's all I got for this week. So for your coach, my coach, the coach, Coach Duffy.
Good night and good luck.
For the one and only Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.